What is up, listeners? Welcome back into the Red Shirts Fantasy Football Podcast. Matthew Betz, Matt Okada, John Helmkamp back on the mic this evening. If you're listening, it is probably Friday, maybe it's Saturday. Happy weekend to all the listeners out there. If you're watching on YouTube, give this a like, hit that subscribe button so you never, ever, ever miss a show because, man, I can't think of many worse things than that, guys. I mean, come on. Let's be honest. We're putting out 3 shows a week. You don't want to miss one. The content has been so good recently. Fellas, have we recovered from the Derek Brown episode, which was an absolute blast? Hilarious show. Have you guys?
We spent a solid hour out in the streets with D-Bro, so now it's nice to be back indoors in the comfort of my living room. So, yeah, that was a blast, though. Just great time having Derek on. Hilarious guy, awesome insight. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we also spent some time in the streets with him today on Twitter talking about the pod. Facts. So we're not over it yet. It's still going down. But I was mostly enlightened except for his Nick Chubb take, which is terrible. Betz, you are ashamed.
Hey, just so you know, the poll that I put up, I let the listeners know, Derek and I were in on Nick Chubb as a top 12 back. You guys are not. The poll right now is about 54% yes, he finishes as a top 12 back. So
here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Drafted
for the fact that you posted it. So there's a takeaway from that percentage, and then you get a real percentage.
But I didn't vote on it.
But I know, but it comes from your followers are the main voters. Every time you post something,
so they're
this is
smart.
A rule of Twitter.
They know to follow good people who know what they're talking. Yes, I see what you're saying. Thank you.
If you post a poll, it is going to be weighted towards the opinions you've been putting out.
That's not even the thing that I care about. The fact of the matter is that, and I know we're going on a bit of a diatribe on this, but
it doesn't matter. We're doing whatever we want tonight.
Yeah, it's me. I diatribe a lot. It happens. Nick Chubb is being drafted as the RB8, firmly in the RB1 camp, and you post the poll and it's 54-46. Like, that's way closer than I thought it would be. I expected to be out on a limb like 70-30, and it's close, even though he's being drafted like he's a surefire round 1 talent. So I'm actually kind of encouraged by that poll. People are smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah. Hey, we got smart listeners, man.
We do have very smart listeners.
Their stuff. Shout out to the listeners. We honestly are super appreciative. We just had another review come in on Apple Podcasts. Reminder, the Devontae Adams signed jersey giveaway won't last much longer. You have until the 17th to get your entry in. That is only a couple of days if you're listening to this over the weekend. Right. So get up in there. One way to get into the contest entry is to drop a review in Apple Podcasts. One way is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Full details for that on the pinned tweet at the show account at RedshirtsFFPod on Twitter. Check that out for sure. And also, new articles going up on the website. Every day this week, we got a new article from Jake. We have a new article from Kyle. Those guys are crushing it. RedshirtsFantasyFootball.com. Be sure to check that out. Fellas, it is June. We don't have any team activities going on, so there's no news. We're just going to skip right over that. Tonight, we are talking about offenses we are avoiding in fantasy football this year. Maybe they're too high in ADP. Maybe we're just fading the players completely. Whatever it is, if you want our players that we're targeting in drafts, we got to have these guys go out and get them. That's the last episode. So after you're done listening to this great podcast, go back one episode, check that out. You will not be disappointed at all. All right, fellas, let's kick it over to John. He's going to start off first with the Bears. John, why are you out on the Bears this year?
Burst. So the Bears, to me, I like some of the pieces on that offense. We as a show all love Allen Robinson. If he ever had a good quarterback for once in his career, it would be fantastic to see. Incredibly talented wide receiver. Love him. David Montgomery, I like fine enough. I think the jury's still a little bit out on him, depending on his usage, to see what that's going to look like, because inexplicably he went from like 6 carries in one game to like 32 the next and like back down to 8. It was all over the board. So if they get him consistent touches, I'm interested to see what he can do. But this offense as a whole, I don't like, and I don't like the quarterback situation. We've talked about it a lot, but we all think it's going to be Trubisky's job to lose still going into the season. I think he will lose it. Betz does not. but it's going to be Trubisky's job.
No.
I do not.
Oh,
I believe he
Okada
does.
was the one.
Yeah,
That's right. I knew one of you.
Yep.
Fools.
I'm with you.
Okay. Yeah. That's right. So we think that Trubisky's going to lose the job at some point. Okada does not. But as long as he's under center, I have such little confidence in that offense being able to produce, being able to sustain drives, being able to score points. I don't like it. And I don't think the defense is going to be the stout defense that we saw a couple years ago for the same reason, because they're going to be on the field all the time and they're going to be tired. So they're going to be playing from behind, I feel like, a majority of the time. And if they're playing from behind, you're trusting Mitch Trubisky to run your offense down there and score points. I don't like that at all. He's going to turn the ball over a ton, and it's going to be 1 week where he throws like 4 picks that they're finally like, okay, the Mitch Trubisky experiment is over. We gave up a king's ransom for a guy that doesn't cut it, and we need to cut bait and move on. And at that point, if that happens and Nick Foles comes in, then yeah, maybe it'll be okay. But I don't like it from a continuity standpoint over the course of this season. I think there's going to be turmoil. Things are going to be moving around. It just seems to me like the Bears are a team that is kind of spiraling the drain a little bit. And I don't like it. I don't want any part at the really inflated value that we're kind of seeing for some of these guys. Now, some of them are kind of being held down a little bit low. I think I'm seeing Montgomery is starting to creep a little bit higher and higher the more that I watch. Allen Robinson is still holding steady. Let me pull up his ADP here in front of me. 12. That's so expensive. Like, I like Allen Robinson fine. I think that he has potential to be wide receiver 12. I think like that's his ceiling in this offense. Absolutely. I would feel much better about him at like RB 18 to 22 range, somewhere in there. I'd like that. But guys going after him right now, Juju's going a spot behind him. AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen, Calvin Ridley. I'd probably take Allen Robinson over Calvin Ridley. But Cortland Sutton, Robert Woods, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett. I would literally take all of them ahead of Allen Robinson going into the season. I think that he's being drafted at his absolute ceiling, and I don't see it with the Trubisky-led offense. I can't get the image out of my mind of him literally jumping on the sidelines, waving his arms, waiting for a pass with no defender around him, and Trubisky just didn't even see his number one target. I can't get that out of my mind.
Just to clarify, you think Trubisky loses his job around week what? Ballpark. 4? 8?
That's
6.
what I've said. I've said like the first month. He's got 4 weeks to figure it out, and if he doesn't, he's out.
Yeah, 4 to 6. I go 4 to 6.
Okay, so I'll jump in here because this is actually the first team of our 2 shows, and glancing at the rest of the doc, I think it might be there's one more I might not like, but maybe one of the only teams in these 2 shows that I actually disagree with. And it's so much that I considered taking the Bears in the last show. And
really?
Here's kind of why. Yes. Here's why. And then, what the listeners can decide. If they stick with Trubisky, we've seen Allen Robinson be good even with Trubisky and worse quarterbacks. We've seen Anthony Miller have very good flashes with Trubisky last year, and that was with a bad injury that, when gone and with another year of development, I think can catapult him into the wide receiver 2 conversation potentially, maybe high-end wide receiver 3. David Montgomery, listen, I'm not a huge David Montgomery fan. You can talk to Betz for that. But he's going to be a stable low-end RB2. And right now, he's going behind a good amount of the rookies, Devin Singletary, Raheem Mostert. I'm probably taking before those guys, especially if I don't have a ton of elite running backs up early in my draft, which has been commonly what's happening for me. Montgomery's going to be a safe guy that I think is going in an okay value. And if all of that falls apart with Trubisky and they do go to Foles, normally, and this is going to be a little bit narrative streetish, normally I wouldn't like switching to a quarterback mid-season, but that's the only time Nick Foles is good, right? If he's coming off the bench. So if they do that, you would think that it could only get better because that's why they're doing it. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of this offense, which I don't think they're going to be a top 10 offense or anything like that, which is why I didn't pick them for the last show. But I do think that they're going to be decent and should return value. Allen Robinson, to your point about where he's going, I have him as wide receiver 11 right now. So I actually like him at his cost, but that may be a little bit of the quarterback faith that you don't really have in the team.
Yeah. Do you know how many points per game they scored last year?
I can
looking
check
it
it
up.
quickly. Well, oh, no.
No, I know.
Would guess,
offhand.
I would guess 23.7.
17.5.
That's way too high.
That's
touchdown
bad.
less.
That's bad.
Touchdown less.
Way too high.
Fourth worst points per game in the NFL last season was the Trubisky-led Bears. Scoring opportunities matter. Oh, stop.
He did.
Stop
he was hurt.
Stop it. I'm pretty sure that he played better when he was hurt. That's how bad he is. I can't get behind an offense that scores 17 and a half points per game. I need scoring opportunities for someone that I'm drafting as a wide receiver 1 where Allen Robinson is going. I like Allen Robinson so much of the talent. I can't wait for Trubisky to lose his job, for Foles to be the bridge, for them to win like 4 games and then be up there to draft an actual quarterback next year. Like, give me Justin Fields going to the Bears. Love it.
Are we out on Matt Nagy?
Yeah.
I'm not yet. I mean, we saw a very dynamic offense just 2 years ago, and this is what happens in fantasy, right? Recency bias. We saw this offense be explosive. And I will say, to John's point, there are several pieces on this offense that I don't want any part of. Obviously, I don't want to roster the quarterback. I don't want Jimmy Graham at age 33 or 34, whatever he is. I don't 42. Want whoever their third wide receiver is going to be, probably Javon Wims. It's a very concentrated group that I'm okay taking. But like to John's point, the ADP for me is kind of right around where I have these guys ranked. And I'm always a drafter that in my drafts, I want to take a player where I can get a better ceiling than what they're going at as their ADP. And with these guys, I don't know that it's there. Now, I have Allen Robinson at wide receiver 13, so this is basically the same exact spot. I've got David Montgomery at running back 25. He's going at 26. So, yeah, all of that right there for me is like these guys are fine. I'm not avoiding them, but I'm certainly not reaching for them given those ADPs. Let's play a quick name game with David Montgomery because he's a guy that I feel like is super intriguing, right? The hype last year was crazy. Now he's going as running back 3 in fantasy. Raheem Mostert, current ADP, running back 25, 1 pick before David Montgomery on FFPC. Who would you rather have?
What do we say about Mostert when we talked about that? Take the big fat Sharpie and scratch right across it.
Scratch it out.
Yeah, scratch it out. It's easily Montgomery for me there.
Yep.
All right.
Same.
DeAndre Swift, running back 27, 1 spot after him.
Montgomery.
Swift
has a higher ceiling, maybe, but we don't even know if he's going to be the lead back. Like if Kerryon Johnson is healthy, he could be a lead back. Or they could just be splitting a committee.
Okay, I'll go Montgomery there.
Let me scroll down a little bit further, so it's a little bit tougher to make the call. Darius Geis, running back 32, or David Montgomery.
Ooh, now that's an interesting one.
That's a really good one.
Honestly, that's a team and draft specific decision because they're totally different targets. If you want upside, if you have 2 or 3 running backs already when you get to that point of the draft, I'm taking Darius Geis without hesitation. And if not, I'm taking David Montgomery because he's safer.
Yeah, David Montgomery for floor, Geis for ceiling.
Yep.
I think I'm with you guys on that for sure. I agree. All right, good discussion there on Da Bears. Okada, what team are you avoiding in your drafts?
Alrighty, let's start it off with a team. It's going to be sad for everybody listening because if you're listening, you were probably here for Dynasty season. You were probably here for draft season. And this team is one of the hottest teams coming out of draft season. They are so hot right now.
So hot right now.
It is the Denver Broncos.
We need that drop.
Yes.
We got to get that as a drop. So hot right now.
Listen, coming out of the draft, there was no team that had more buzz in the entire NFL because they went out and they drafted Jerry Jeudy in the first round. They drafted KJ Hamler in the second round. They drafted an offensive lineman in the third round. They drafted Albert Okuebunam, tight end, in the fourth round. Everybody got super excited. Yes, everyone got super excited about the future for Drew Lock. They already have Courtland Sutton, which we know is exciting. And, of course, they went out and signed a top-end running back. Here's the issue. This is the dynasty team that I'm interested in. This is a team that in 2 or 3 years, when Drew Lock is developed, when Judy and Hamler have gotten into their third year where we actually typically see wide receivers break out, and when Cortland Sutton is established as an elite wide receiver one, which he can be.
For sure.
Right now, I think he's more of a fringe guy.
Yep.
In 3 years, I'm probably going to have this team in my offenses to target for 2022 redraft or whatever that would be. But that's not this year. This is 2020. And I think we're getting too excited about 2020 for this team because I think it's going to take them time to develop. I think Drew Lock can be something, but won't be this year. Maybe a mid-range QB2, maybe a little bit lower even, and people are getting too excited about his weapons and thinking this guy has QB1 upside. Cortland Sutton, I like. I think he can be a fringe wide receiver one, maybe. But, and this is one of the main issues with all this weaponry, bringing in Jerry Jeudy, I don't know. I don't think that's good for Cortland Sutton necessarily. Like, there's always the conversation of now he's got a good guy on the other side. Maybe that opens things up. I think it's more of an issue of Jerry Jeudy's going to start commanding more targets than anyone else would have. And then you got KJ Hamler probably coming out of the slot, also probably better than the guys that the Broncos had last year, whether it's Deshaun Hamilton or whoever else they had running around with Cortland Sutton after getting rid of Sanders. So, and then at the running back position, we've talked about this. Betz is a big Melvin Gordon fan. I'm not. I think Phillip Lindsay is too good and has been too efficient for this team and ends up creating a bit of what we talked about with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, where the backup is too good for the RB1 to truly be an RB1. That's kind of how I see it. Now, to be fair, Denver is a very light version of Chubb and Hunt. Gordon and Lindsay are not that, but that just makes it worse. That just makes it worse for the Broncos. So I don't like Melvin Gordon where he's going because I think that Lindsay's going to eat in too much and he's not going to be the guy we know from LA, San Diego, really, a couple years ago. I don't like Lindsay enough because now he's not the lead guy. I don't like Sutton as much as where he's going quite. He's the closest probably, but still probably not because I think Judy's going to eat in. I'm not drafting Judy because I don't want a rookie receiver who's not even the one on his team. The only one I'm probably looking at a redraft is Justin Jefferson, so I'm not looking at Sutton. Noah Fant is the only guy that I'm maybe interested in, and even he's going probably a little bit too high for me to feel great. I am not in on drafting these guys right now. In Dynasty, go out and get them. In fact, you know what? Wait until the middle of the season when the buzz has died off because they're not looking that great, and then trade for them in Dynasty. But in terms of redrafts, I'm out.
There are a lot of points that I definitely agree with. All of that about Drew Lock. I mean, we got to pour some cold water on this fire that's going. Guys, I don't know if there is Okada is literally
MVP.
pouring over his mug on the YouTube. I don't know if there is a more obvious sell in Dynasty right now. And I don't think it's because Drew Lock can't be good. It's because everyone is valuing him as like a top 15 quarterback. And we saw him play 5 games last
higher,
year.
Yeah. I think he's going
into
QB1 all over the place in Dynasty.
Here's the teams he beat. The Raiders. Terrible pass defense.
Poop.
The Lions. Bottom 3 pass defense.
Poop.
Do better.
Chiefs. Texans. Terrible pass defense.
Crapola.
Chargers. Injuries galore on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not convinced Drew Lock is good yet. I love the player. He's fun to root for. He's got the weapons, but everyone is crowning him as like the next quarterback one in fantasy, and we haven't seen anything yet, not to mention the youth on the offensive side of the ball. Question marks everywhere. Now, I will say Pat Shurmur coming in is a little bit more exciting for the offense, the new offensive coordinator. We saw his teams have increased pass percentages in neutral game scripts, more plays per game. So that's encouraging in general for the offense. But if Drew Lock can't move him down the field, it might not matter. So I agree. I'm fading the Broncos offense outside of Melvin Gordon because I know when they get inside the 20 and the 10-yard line, he's getting the football. And he's been one of the best backs around the goal line in the league in the last 3 or 4 years. So the only player I want on this team is Melvin Gordon, unless I can get Cortland Sutton at a value. And in our mock draft a few episodes ago, I got him at wide receiver 28. Are you kidding me? At that price, yes, take amazing. Cortland Sutton. But I'm not taking him to be a top 15 wide receiver this year, just given the concerns with Drew Lock.
So here's, before we move on from that really quick, I do really like Cortland Sutton, and I like him for this year. I think I'm the highest on Sutton of the three of us.
Where do you have him, you know?
I don't know offhand. I haven't looked at my wide receiver rankings in a little bit. I need to actually go back and refresh all my rankings and toy some stuff on there. Offhand, I would say potentially right around 16 to 18.
That's where he's going.
Yeah, and I like that. So I'm in on where he's going right now at wide receiver 18, with potentially, and I'm not saying it's like a likely scenario, but potentially wide receiver 1 upside. Like, he's very, very talented. I like the player. The splits for him last year when he had Emmanuel Sanders on the other side were so much better than after Sanders left town. So it's kind of hard to take all of the different pieces of data and figure out what is it that contributed to his stats being lower down the stretch. Was it Drew Lock, or was it not having another wide receiver on the other side, or some combination thereof? So that can be a little bit kind of muddy because we had like multiple factors go into the equation at the same time. But I do like Jerry Jeudy being on the other side. I think it's going to help Courtland Sutton. I think Courtland Sutton is going to be a big-time red zone threat. And I think that he has shown the flashes and the ability to develop, and he's going to, I expect him to take another step. So being drafted as a mid wide receiver 2, I'm good with that. Even in redraft, even in this year, I like it because of the amount of talent that is on that team. And yes, it does kind of bank on Drew Lock holding his own. And I get that. I'm not expecting him to go out there and be Kyler Murray. But if he can come in and take a little bit of a step forward and prove himself to be a serviceable quarterback, not someone that I'm drafting anywhere in redraft, but if he can be a serviceable quarterback for that offense, I think that Courtland Sutton's going to be just fine.
Here are Courtland Sutton's wide receiver finishes over the last month of the season. Drew Lock started all these games. Wide receiver 56, wide receiver 41, wide receiver 51, wide receiver 45. Small sample size, but that's not great, Bob.
Not great,
We would like to see more than that out of Courtland Sutton. So there are concerns, but the upside is there. He's a good wide receiver. It's just a matter of, can Drew Lock get him the ball? Right. We're going to find out very soon. All right, fellas, my team that I'm fading this year, and I don't want them on my roster outside of Austin Eckler, is the LA Chargers. Now, I think this is the one Okada disagrees with me on.
Yep.
Is this the
I'm with Okada.
This is the other one of the what is it? 8 plus 6 of the 12 teams 14. On these two shows. This is the one
12?
Yes.
12,
thank you. 14.
14.
Listen,
math is hard for a
past 8 o'clock here on the Pacific Coast.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
He's the one I disagree with the most. Yes.
I will just let you know off the bat, your argument means nothing at this point. You lost all credibility.
Validity gone.
Yeah, good Lord.
Boy.
Here's why I'm fading the Chargers this year. Do they have good players on offense? Yes, they do. I've been a Mike Williams truther since day one. It's unfortunate the way it's gone so far. Is Keenan Allen a PPR stud? Yes, he is. Is Austin Eckler a good running back? Yes, he is. Is Tyrod Taylor a good quarterback? No, he's not. And Justin Herbert is raw as a passer. Tyrod Taylor has never passed 3,035 yards in his career in a season. He's never thrown for more than 20 touchdowns. And that's a 14-game sample. So it's not like it was just 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 games. Like, that's almost a full season. The Chargers, one of the slowest offenses in the league each of the past 2 seasons, bottom 10. Low volume, questionable quarterback play. Good defense that's going to be better than they were last year with players coming back from injury.
It's the Chargers. No one's ever coming back from injury.
Got him.
Fair point on that one. Yeah, I'm just fading the Chargers, man. I don't see a scenario where they're going to return value in your drafts this year. I like Austin Eckler's volume. I think he's going to be totally fine. But, man, I don't want Mike Williams this year. I don't want Keenan Allen this year. I don't know. I'm just nervous about Tyrod, given the fact that we saw him, even with Buffalo, not be able to support wide receiver 1 production or even high-end wide receiver 2 production.
Sammy Watkins as his best wide receiver when he was
I'm just saying, man, 3,000 yards. 3,000 yards.
Fair, Sammy Watkins had over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns in that season in only 13 games.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
That's good.
That's one season. That's one season.
But he never really got a chance outside of that to be the full-time starter necessarily. Now, I will say
he
that
had three seasons.
Oh, I was talking about Sammy.
Yeah, I was
I see,
talking about full seasons where he didn't get hurt.
Regardless, go ahead, Okada.
Listen, Tyrod Taylor's not a great quarterback. To your point of him not being a good quarterback, I don't know if I agree. I think he's pretty serviceable. However, I'm not too concerned. I'm not too concerned because I don't think it's going to be freaking Tyrod Taylor. This team is trying to go out and open a new stadium in LA and compete with the Los Angeles Rams for fans. And they just drafted an exciting golden-haired 6th overall pick, Justin Herbert out of Oregon.
They're beautiful.
They are not going to roll out Mr. Mud, Tyrod Taylor, no one cares, least interesting player in the National Football League as their quarterback. Unless Justin Herbert shows in whatever sort of camp we have that he is not ready at all, I expect him to roll out Justin Herbert fairly early. Maybe we see a Baker Mayfield type situation. Oh, who was the quarterback for that team?
He's going to get Baker together.
Tyrod Taylor. But beyond that, so I'm not necessarily drafting the quarterback. But Keenan Allen is too good for the quarterback to matter. So get out of my face with that. If Herbert takes over, that's an upgrade for Mike Williams over Phillip Rivers. I'm sorry. He's not necessarily a better signal caller, but Rivers' arms was non-existent. I could throw the ball farther than Phillip Rivers, and Justin Herbert will be able to support that better than he did. And Eckler is an RB1 upside guy with a hugely high RB2 floor. And I like the tight end in Hunter Henry to be a top 6 tight end. I don't get this one at all. I think you're putting way too much weight on Tyrod Taylor. John, maybe you can help us clarify this because this is worse than the Bears for sure.
I'm completely in agreement with Okada. I like the Chargers offense. I think that Justin Herbert is the starting quarterback after like maybe 3 or 4 weeks. Like they might need a little bit of time for him to acclimate without an offseason program, but you're not taking an early first-round pick going into a new stadium and saying, you know what, fans, I know you're excited and we've got a shiny new building and we're just gonna sit the rookie for a year. Like, no, it's not happening. It's gonna be Herbert that's out there, 6'6" with a cannon of an arm.
And the golden locks.
And the golden locks. I know that he had some accuracy concerns at Oregon. Like, I get that. But he also made a lot of very, very good throws, some very big throws, some very deep throws. And the best friend for a rookie quarterback, there's 2 best friends. One of them is a tight end, and that's Hunter Henry. The second is a wide receiver who's a freaking separation savant, and that is Keenan Allen. That top dude gets open, like top 5 in separation, maybe easily. Top 3. Like he is so good at separating in a phone booth from the defender. He is going to make himself such a friendly target, and he's going to get peppered with volume. I think if there's anyone that takes a step down, the only one that I don't want is Mike Williams. I've never been a Mike Williams guy. I'm still not. I haven't seen it. I'm not a Mike Williams dude. I know, Betz. I'm sorry. But the rest of that offense, I want.
And John, what is number 3 on that list of things you want your young quarterback to have?
Pass-catching running back.
Back!
Yeah.
Are we just going to ignore the fact that? Are we just going to ignore the fact that rookie quarterbacks don't support high-end fantasy production at the wide receiver or pass catcher positions? We're just going to ignore that this year.
Well, I mean, listen,
he's not Kyler Murray.
If you look at Kate Majuk's tweet recently, I believe it was Kate. Correct? Did you guys see that tweet about wide receiver ones being supported by rookie quarterbacks? There was only 6 guys in the last 10 years or something who've done it. One of them was Brian Hartline. Who knows how that happened? The other 5 names were all elite level wide receivers who could have Hall of Fame careers potentially. Keenan Allen is that guy. He is one of the most talented receivers in the league. Yeah. I think that he transcends the rookie quarterback, stigma and is good enough.
I think it depends on draft price. So that's where I'm at with this. Like, if you're expecting Keenan Allen to be a wide receiver 1, I'm sorry, it's not happening this year. I don't think the offense is going to be good enough. An ascending defense, low volume. You guys are just putting Justin Herbert in and saying he's going to support the offense. The dude has serious concerns as a quarterback. He's a good quarterback. Yes. Is he going to produce in year one? I don't think so. I think you guys are honestly off your rocker at this point. And all I got to say is we got some bets coming on the bet sheet, and I'm very excited to win all of them surrounding these players. You guys are so wrong. It is unreal.
Wow, so wow. I got the tweet from Kate. There have been 16 quarterbacks since 2010 to start 14 plus games in their rookie season. Looking at each of those 16 seasons individually, they're wide receivers that had greater than 1,000 receiving yards out of those quarterbacks. Reggie Wayne, Steve Smith, I'm Brian Hartline. I don't get it. But the other two, more modern, Mike Evans and AJ Green. I think that Keenan Allen is a more technically sound wide receiver than Mike Evans is. Easily. I truly believe that he could fall into this category quite easily on a ton of volume because he's going to get open a lot. So I just don't agree with Betz. I don't agree.
Fine.
I like this.
What are we putting the line at for Keenan Allen end of season finish?
Right now he's going at wide receiver 21 according to the 4for4 ADP we're looking at. I don't know how realistic that is. He's probably going to go a little higher than that by the time the season rolls around.
What did you say, John?
I said, you want to take that?
He doesn't want to take that. He doesn't want that smoke. He don't want that smoke.
How about we go? Give me one spot. Give me 20.5, and I'll take it.
Sure.
Oh yeah, smash. I'll take that
easily.
Perfect. Under.
Thanks to the.
Where do you have him, Betz? You know,
23.
Oh my goodness.
23.
I mean, listen. To your point about like he's not going to be wide receiver 1, I don't even have him as a wide receiver 1. I technically have him as wide receiver 14, but I don't see how he falls below that, man. He's too good. Woo!
Guys,
wow.
Open your eyes, man. Open your eyes to the rest of the league. Low pace offense, bad quarterback play,
low pace quarterback play. Phillip Rivers. Low pace with
the coaching staff. The coaching staff too. Yeah. All right, we'll see. It's on the sheet. Lock it in, boys. Lock it in.
All right.
Quick pause. Word from our sponsor of tonight's show. We haven't talked about this sponsor in a while, guys. We got to bring him back. TinyWhiteboardWorkouts.com. Listen, summer is here. It is time to get your beach body ready. Okada's been flexing so hard on the screen, been working out. We are trying to get fit this summer, and you should too. Tiny Whiteboard Workouts is a program, a company built around top level fitness training, and you don't have to be the world's best athlete to join my friend John, the trainer who owns Tiny Whiteboard Workouts. You just have to be willing to work hard and listen to a good coach. That's it. He does it all remotely, so you don't even have to go to where he is in Florida. You can do it from anywhere in the country. Check out tinywhiteboardworkouts.com and also follow him on Instagram at tinywhiteboardworkouts. Guys, you got to go get fit. Now is the time. It is summer. Do it. All right, John, back to you, man. Who is your second offense that you are fading in 2020?
So speaking of rookie quarterbacks, the second team on my list here, and by the way, unintentionally, 4 of our 6 teams that we're talking tonight all start with a B, by the way. I'm talking about the Cincinnati Bengals.
And the other 2 start with a C. So basically, you don't want to be early in the alphabet.
No. And considering there's no A, don't start early in the alphabet. I don't want the Bengals. I don't. So I've talked about the Bears and how they scored 17.5 points per game last year. Would you like to know what the Bengals did? 17.4, right below them.
Ew.
Not good. So
Great.
Listen, what's happening is I feel like what we're seeing from people when they're looking at Cincinnati and talking about them and talking about the players is kind of in some ways similar to what we saw about the Browns last year. Last year it was a half a season of Baker Mayfield, so we had some NFL experience under his belt. And then they bring in the new weapons and they bring in the new toys, and everyone crowns this as being an elite up-and-coming offense because of the talent that is there, and it's going to be top 5 in everything, and it's going to be amazing. We're not hearing that same type of smoke on the Bengals, but there's so much being made of Joe Burrow's coming to town, and he's going to save this offense, and Joe Mixon's going to be elite, And they have T. Higgins who might show up in his rookie year. And AJ Green's going to be back and he's going to be awesome. And we have Tyler Boyd, and he's like, stop talking about this team at their ceiling. Stop it. You are hoping, wishing with nothing else to go off of, that a rookie quarterback with a bad offensive line in a division with really, really good pass rush is going to step in and lead this team to a top 10 offense. That is a hell of a lot of pressure to put on a rookie quarterback. It takes time for these guys to develop. Some of them walk in and their
Herbert.
Stop it. It's not the same. No one's talking about them doing the same thing as what I'm hearing about the Bengals. I expect the Chargers to be somewhere in the middle of the road. I don't expect them to be an elite offense. But people are saying Joe Mixon's going to be like a surefire running back 1. And Burrow's going to come in and he's going to tear it up. And I saw a dynasty rank today from, I can't remember what website had it. They had him at the dynasty quarterback 11 before he's taken a snap. Like, stop it. Stop. It's stupid. The amount of hype.
Don't do that.
Stop it. I need to see
Naughty.
Stop it. The amount of hype that people are putting on Burrow to come in and be like, well, he threw for like 1 million yards at LSU and he's going to light the NFL up. That was a single season historic offensive performance with elite players that were drafted high all over the place in the NFL draft, and a very, very creative offensive system who he was so good that now he's in the NFL too, Joe Brady. So I like Burrow. Burrow's a great prospect. Awesome. Absolutely should have gone first overall. Love it. But stop assuming that everyone's going to come in and it's going to be ceiling from day one. It might take some adjustment. Just pump the brakes on everything about that Bengals offense, please. Like we haven't seen a full season of elite production from Joe Mixon at all. And people are assuming that he's going to come in for 16 games and put up 1,600 scrimmage yards and double-digit touchdowns. Like, you can't make that assumption on Joe Mixon. I think there's a much more realistic possibility that he finishes outside the top 14 than he does finish inside the top 8. Like, you can't say that this offense is going to be just this elite top 10 offense all of a sudden because you have a rookie quarterback coming in. I don't get it. They were bottom 3 last year. Bottom 3 in points per game scored. You're expecting this single change to catapult them from 17.4 points a game to like 28? Like that, you can't make that assumption.
Drake or Mixon?
Drake.
No
question.
Sanders or Mixon?
Sanders. No question.
Jacobs or Mixon?
Jacobs.
Mixon.
Eckler or Mixon?
That's so close.
That's hard.
Okay.
Let me pull up my hold on.
That's interesting. I honestly expected Mixon to come up sooner in your guys' mouths. He does for me. I like him kind of where he's going. I think he's the end of a tier that is with Derrick Henry. Pretty much they're the only guys in the tier who I feel pretty good about being RB1s. But I will say, and I like Tyler Boyd because his draft value is not very high for a guy who's probably going to lead his team with 120 plus targets.
Yeah, I'll take minute value. I'll take
outside of those two guys, nothing else on this team interests me. So I don't know how much I agree or disagree. I do think that the offense is overhyped, and outside of those two pieces, you're not going to want any of it. But I will say those are the only two pieces that I feel like are really getting much redraft capital, and I would go in on those. So I don't know. I'm a little lukewarm. Betz?
Mixon's the piece that drives me the craziest because right now he's going as RB7. RB7.
You have him ranked outside the RB1s, outside the 12, or right at the end?
I think I have him right now. I think I have him at like 11 or 12, and I think I'm going to slide him down even further.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah. I split the middle. I split the difference between you guys. I have him at 9. We saw last year Joe Mixon be absolutely amazing for fantasy. You can't even argue it, okay? Because here's his finishes
in the second half.
Before the bye. Also after injury, right? Ankle sprain in week 1, dealt with it in week 2 and week 3. Comes out, one finish that wasn't at least a running back 2 finish. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 finishes inside the top 13 over the last 8 weeks. So we've seen what he can do. Now, I will say I'm more in on Joe Mixon this year because of the fact that I think last year, like, it's not going to get worse. You talked about the numbers, John. Like, it was bad last year in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, yes, there's going to be some growing pains, as with every rookie quarterback, including Justin Herbert. And with this offense, you're also not factoring in, like, the tempo is also going to go back up. We saw Zach Taylor, a disciple of Sean McVay, come in, run more plays than they've ever have with Marvin Lewis, who how was he a head coach for however long? It is insane. It is insane. But regardless, the air was pointing up on the offense in general. Are we going to see the ceiling this year? No, probably not. But I think Joe Mixon is still going to get enough volume that I think he's right there at their RB1, RB2 fringe ranking, so to speak. And I'm going to hedge on the fact that last year it can't get worse, so it can only get better with him. That's why I've got him at 9. We saw him be an absolute animal down the stretch last year.
They do get a first-round offensive lineman from last year's draft back who did not play any games, in Jonah Williams. So maybe that helps a little bit for what it's worth.
It helps. But I agree. If you're expecting this Bengals offense to be top 15, top 12, like, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think Joe Mixon will be good enough that I'll want him on some rosters. And be productive. That's for sure.
You want him at his ADP at RB7?
I don't have him ranked there, so the answer, I guess, simply is no.
I do. I have him at 6, so I'll take him.
All right, perfect. John's very upset with you, Okada. Disappointed look to this head turned to the side.
Another guy similar to Dalvin Cook, by the way, who's one of the most talented players in the league that doesn't maybe get his due. But he's on a terrible team, so that's fair.
We'll see.
Somewhat.
Okada, who is your second team?
All right. This one's going to be a little bit interesting. I think I might get some pushback on this, but I am going with another B team. By the way, I did a quick check. We have the first 4 teams alphabetical by mascot and 6 of the top 9. So
yes,
that's what we're doing here on the Red Shirts podcast, everybody.
And next week we'll go D through F.
It is the Buffalo Bills. And in case you had any qualms about going with this team, they have 2 Bs, Buffalo and Bills. So let's scratch them off your draft boards. No, thank you.
For that reason alone.
All right. Getting more serious. Here's the thing. They added some good pieces. They added Stephon Diggs. They drafted Zach Moss. 3rd round. Some people like him. Some people don't. I'm not a huge fan. But they added a running back somewhat early. What they didn't really do was add too much in the draft in terms of wide receiver talent. I suppose that's because they added Diggs in traded for Diggs. And in fact, gave up their first round pick to get it, so they couldn't draft one there if they had wanted to. And here's my issue. Bringing in those guys, you maybe want to get excited about them, but they rely on the arm of Josh Allen. And I don't trust the arm of Josh Allen yet. Do I like Josh Allen in fantasy because of his rushing ability? Yes. Absolutely. Very much so. He has high rushing yards ability and very high rushing touchdown ability. I don't know if we've seen his rushing touchdown ceiling. And that is very, very attractive to me. For fantasy, he doesn't have to do much with his arm to be worth a draft pick. Now, he also is going very high, like top half of the QB1s, QB 6 or 7 range. That's probably his ceiling. It's not too far off his floor either because of his rushing. It gives him a high floor. So it's not terrible as a draft price, but I have him ranked a little bit behind that, and I do think it's kind of his ceiling. So I feel a little bit uncomfortable taking him there. Everyone else, I feel like, is going either too high in the terms for Devin Singletary and probably Stephon Diggs because of his talent, which I love, by the way, or they're maybe a late round value like John Brown, but they're not very exciting. Like John Brown, yes, you can get him in the double-digit rounds probably and have yourself a nice flex guy, but that's all he's going to be. He does not have wide receiver 1 upside, maybe barely even will crack wide receiver 2 upside. So he's all right, but he's not that interesting to me. So the people that teams or the people that fantasy drafters are interested in, I think are going a little bit too high. Singletary, yeah, listen, I'm a big Singletary fan. I liked him a lot, but I do think Zach Moss takes carries, which is upsetting to me because I was excited for Singletary to be an RB1 of the future. And I don't like the opportunity Zach Moss will have to take carries. Maybe he's bad enough that he won't. That's what I'm hoping for. Hoping for a Ronald Jones situation here. But Singletary is going. He's not very good. But Singletary is going right now at RB23. That is a hefty price to pay for a second-year rookie or a second-year guy that has another guy drafted in the third round coming in and a rushing quarterback who may take a lot of that work. I don't hate these pieces, okay? This is not quite as bad as the Broncos where I am saying throw all the water on the fire, but there's just very little excitement for me here and not a lot of draft value to be had, and I think that there's a decent amount of hype around this team, so I'm going to put a little bit of stamping out on the fires that do exist, and I'm staying away for the most part from the Bills.
Okay, I'm going to play the game that Okada likes to play with all of us, which is the name game. So, Stephon Diggs or Tyler Lockett.
Lockett.
Ooh,
Easy.
Stephon Diggs or Terry McLaurin.
What? Don't even ask.
I know you. Stephon Diggs or Jarvis Landry.
Jarvis.
Give us a hard one, John.
Well, I'm already like 10 picks after Stephon's ADP. Stephon Diggs or Michael Gallup.
That's where it gets interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting for me.
Michael Gallup is going off the board. Yeah, I want to hear your answer first.
How many spots behind? I'm curious.
He's going 7 picks later than 7 wide receivers later than Stephon Diggs.
Couple rounds probably at least.
Yep.
2 rounds later.
I would take Diggs straight up. I would take Gallup at his price.
In a PPR, I probably take Diggs. In a half or non, I probably go Gallup.
All right, so Diggs is going as the wide receiver 25, and he's going ahead of McLaurin, Jarvis Landry, Michael Gallup, Deontay Johnson.
Okay, I take Diggs there.
Marvin Jones. That's an interesting one.
Always
underrated.
But
Marvin
the fact
Jones,
that these guys are naming are interesting is the problem with Diggs.
Right. Marvin Jones, wide receiver 39 at ADP 107th overall.
Wow.
Stephon Diggs at 68th overall. 40 picks later, 39 picks later.
Yeah, I share the concerns with Diggs, no doubt. I mean, we saw him basically throw a hissy fit to get out of Minnesota, and it's like, careful what you wish for, man. Now you're catching passes from Josh Allen, who he can still develop, but he's been wildly inaccurate, and Bills fans hate when you say that, but it's just the truth. Like, I love Josh Allen for fantasy. He's great, but his arm, for an accuracy standpoint, is not great.
Like, he's gotten better.
He's gotten better, and there's room to grow, no doubt about it.
Still not great. Yeah,
it's concerning. And with Devin Singletary, like Okada said, I'm a fan, but they drafted Zach Moss for a reason. They have a role for him, guys. Frank Gore, 10 zone. Excuse me, not even red zone. 10 zone inside the 10 rush attempts. 18 more than Marlon Mack, more than Saquon Barkley, more than Carlos Hyde, more than Kerryon Johnson, more than Alvin Kamara last year. Like, they've got a role for Zach Moss, and I'm scared that it's just like, okay, we're inside the 20. Singletary, get off the field. Here you go, Zach Moss. And if he doesn't score touchdowns, he's not going to finish inside the top 15 at running back. So to draft him at, what do you say, running back like 23 or 22?
23, yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't envision myself owning a lot of Devin Singletary this year for that fact alone, despite the fact that I do like him as a player. So I definitely agree with that for sure.
Zach Moss is going to piss people off the way that LeGarrette Blount used to, where like he might only get 600 to 800 rushing yards on the season, but he's going to poach so many touchdowns inside the 5.
And be a bad running back the whole time.
And be a bad running back the whole time because he doesn't have any sort of lateral agility, but he's big. And they're going to go heavy set and give him the ball, and he's going to go straight downhill. All he needs to do is knock one linebacker backwards about half a yard, and he'll find his way into the end zone. And he's going to be terrible for fantasy, and all he's going to do is just absolutely vulture touchdowns away from Devin Singletary. I don't like Moss, and I hate it for Singletary.
You know what else reminds me of? Is the CJ Spiller, Fred Jackson day.
Yes.
CJ Spiller could have been the best running back in fantasy for like 3 years. And Fred Jackson was just always hanging around, being a douche.
He was.
His value.
This is exactly what it is.
It is what it is. And that was this team, by the way.
On the same team.
Yes.
Oh, CJ Spiller. Well,
I got burned by CJ Spiller one too many times.
Was it like 2013, something like that?
Probably somewhere around there. I drafted him every year because he was so dynamic, and Fred Jackson just plodding along, stealing his value.
I love it,
Fred.
Oh, those are the days.
I love it so much.
All right, guys. Last team on the dock here. John, don't get too upset with me, but I'm fading the Colts this year for everyone not named Jonathan Taylor. That's my caveat. I'm still in
Thank
on
you.
Jonathan Taylor.
Thank you.
Don't
Have
get
me
worried,
straight.
guys.
Okay.
Still in.
All right.
But in terms of the Colts offense in general, I'm mostly talking about the pass catchers, guys. We just talked about the Chargers and the concerns there, and you guys said, well, the offense was slow because Phillip Rivers. And I definitely agree that's part of it. He walks up to the line of scrimmage. He's calling out audibles. Then he changes his mind again, calls out a new audible, claps his hand 19 times, and finally gets the snap off with 0.5 seconds left on the clock.
Right.
The slowest pace. So we don't like to see that in terms of plays per game and volume for pass catchers. You've got an aging T.Y. Hilton who struggled with soft tissue injuries. We know every year that goes by, the increased risk goes up by 1.3 times each year in research that we know from injuries. So that's a concern for Ty. Now you talk about Phillip Rivers' arm. I just don't know how he's going to support the pass catchers there. And I don't know how you can really trust any of them given the lack of explosiveness we've seen ever since Andrew Luck left. So I'm fading the entire team outside of Jonathan Taylor. And the reason I'm not fading Jonathan Taylor, A, is because he's a damn good running back. B, this offensive line is amazing. And C, per Vegas win totals, easiest schedule by far in the entire NFL. I think we're going to see a lot of game manager type of situations for Phillip Rivers, low volume for the pass catchers, meaning Jonathan Taylor, and to a degree, Marlon Mack will have very productive weeks in fantasy. Outside of that, I'm out.
Would you like to take a gander at where I have T.Y. Hilton ranked among wide receivers?
Oh, did you put him in a body bag?
I put him in a body bag called wide receivers 37.
Yeah, okay.
37.
37.
Yeah. Oh,
get him out of my house. Listen, I'm just going to read off the 5 names above him in my rankings. Darius Slayton, Jamison Crowder, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Cooks, Marvin Jones.
I can't argue it.
It's not. His time is gone.
Yeah, and this is no disrespect to T.Y. Hilton. Loved prime T.Y. Hilton. The ghost, dude. He was so good in his prime.
Yep.
With Andrew Luck, oh man, fond memories, nothing but respect. But his time's just gone. It's just passed.
And I also really like Michael Pittman Jr., but not in his rookie season. No, in 3 years, maybe.
When they
have a new quarter,
second year.
Yes.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I'm very on board with this one. Somewhat makes up for your first team, but not really. Completely staying away from the Colts. I also will maybe perhaps some Jonathan Taylor shares, but I will say, guys, looking at his best ball ADP, and we'll see where this ends up for redraft by the time the season rolls around. But he's at RB 17 right now. That's pretty high, and it's getting up there. I want to draft him. I want some pieces of him, but that might be a little too rich for me, especially if it takes him, 6 weeks to take the job, which I think is not unrealistic.
Yeah, that could absolutely happen. Jonathan Taylor in redraft is an interesting conversation that we haven't had a lot of. We've talked a lot. I've talked a lot of Jonathan Taylor dynasty, but Jonathan Taylor redraft we haven't really broached. And I've said it, he's going to take that job for sure. It's not going to be like a 70% carry workload out of the gate. It's not going to happen. So
no.
Drafting him to be a mid RB2 when to start the year, I mean, it could be dodgy. It could look a little sketchy at the very beginning of the season between it's a new quarterback under center with a new running back behind him, new number 2 wide receiver, most likely, and Michael Pittman Jr. We think that he's probably going to carve out that role. It might take a little bit of time for this offense to get their sea legs. And it might take a little bit of time for Jonathan Taylor to win that job outright. So I love Jonathan Taylor, the talent, obviously, big time. But in redraft, you're playing to win every year. You're not in a playing the long game. And if you're playing to win, you can't really sacrifice 6 weeks of your season by waiting on a running back to develop into the role. So if he's going as a mid to high RB2, that's a little concerning. That's a bit hard.
That's probably going to climb if it moves from RB 17
to 14.
The more people learn about him, the higher it's probably going to climb. Yeah, I can easily see it getting up to 14. So, all right, let's finish with another name game because we love these name games.
We do love these games.
You're sitting there in the early 4th round. You only have one running back, so you need your RB2. Jonathan Taylor, or in current ADP, these 5 names behind him: Melvin Gordon, Chris Carson, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, David Johnson. How many of those guys do you want ahead
all
of
them? All of them except for Lev Bell.
Okay, it's 4 or 5.
Say them all again.
Melvin Gordon, Chris Carson, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, David Johnson.
I don't want Lev. I want Jonathan Taylor more than Chris Carson. And I'm a Seahawks fan.
Interesting.
And
not feeling the health, I guess.
No, I'm really not. I'm really concerned. Okay. I think they're going to split that backfield up with Carlos Hyde coming in and getting a little bit of work, 6 to 8 carries a game, something like that.
They're just going to cook.
Or just let them cook. Just please. That's what I'm in for. That's what I want. And I think I want Jonathan Taylor more than Melvin Gordon.
Ooh,
I think so, because I think we are going to see the split there with Phillip Lindsay. So while I know that Jonathan Taylor is going to be splitting early, I think Jonathan Taylor early
all year.
Melvin Gordon's going to be splitting all year. Where Jonathan Taylor, I think, can grow into something that could potentially win you your league down the home stretch.
That's the thing too with Jonathan Taylor is like you got to factor in redraft. The price could get too pricey, and if he's getting to like running back 14, like you said, I can't draft him there.
It's hard.
But if he's going as a back end running back too, you can still make up for the deficit that you're going to see in the first 3 or 4 or 5 weeks of the season by understanding that when you draft Jonathan Taylor, you're not drafting him for week 1, not even drafting him for week 2 or week 3. You're drafting him for like mid-October through December when you push towards the playoffs, and you have an emerging star and an emerging top end running back too, I think, in fantasy in his rookie season. And I think, you're getting him cheaper than that. So you have to understand where you're drafting him isn't really like the finish on the season, so to speak. You're drafting him to be more than that come season's end. And so it's tough to project that out, but that's the understanding you have to have. If you want,
you better have a hell of a running back 1. You need to have a lot.
And I think you need to have a running back 2.
Well, you have to go after him. You'd have to come back after that. You'd have to double down. Like you'd have to go Jonathan Taylor and then grab a running back the next round.
Mark Ingram.
You take Mark Ingram like 3 rounds later.
Yes.
Wait for Jonathan Taylor, and then in like round 9, take Marlon Mack, because I want the Colts starting running back. I don't care who it is. I mean, I'll play Marlon Mack in a few games this year if he's the dude. So
I'm sure.
Yeah, I will do that for sure. Fellas, another fantastic show, despite you guys being haters regarding the Chargers.
You mean truthers?
Yeah, we'll see, man. Yes. I'm super excited for the Betz bet sheet. It is filling up quickly. Listeners, you should get in on the action as well. Be sure to comment with us on Twitter at RedShirtsFFPod. Follow Okada at Matt Okada. Follow John at Dynasty Beard. I am at The Fantasy PT. We are back on Monday with another mock draft. We'll switch up the settings for the next time that we do a show. Okada is looking like he maybe wants to close out the show with one more point.
Well, I don't know if this is a closing point, but just quickly for any listeners that joined for this show and didn't listen to the last one where John explained what we were doing here and are like, what do you mean the Redskins and the Jets and the Dolphins aren't on these lists? It's not the teams that we just won't touch because they're trash. It's the teams that you're going to hurt if you draft your players there. You're going to hurt your team because you're taking guys that are overvalued. So
obviously Jets, obviously Redskins, away from Terry McLaurin.
It's true. That's Terry McLaurin, yes, please, but no one on the Jets, literally.
Maybe some.
So just clarifying that.
Yes, good point. We talked about this exact opposite on the show last time. These were our players and offenses we're avoiding. Go back one episode, fantastic show. Talked about offenses we are targeting specifically in our draft. So check out those two together, fellas. Good show. We're back on Monday with a mock draft. Until next time, we are the Red Shirts.